5 weeks ago, sitting in front of my research paper with a severe case of writer's block, I decided to look up the word possibility on Google. Out of all the definitions, one of them really stood out to me. It said that possibility is a thing that may happen or be the case. A possibility is a likelihood, a chance of an existence, a glimmer of hope in obscurity. In science, multiple perspectives combine to strengthen the possibility of a single idea. Nevertheless, when evidence proves to be underfulfilling, possibility often requires just the faintest belief, hope, and faith. Hi, my name is Batseba, and I was the result of that unanimous faith, a possibility amongst infinite others. I'm the living reflection of my parents' faith in creation, their hopes for a future that could carry their values and the backbones of our people. It takes a whole village to raise one child. This is an African proverb of Nigerian origin that perfectly describes my upbringing. Though my birth didn't rally a village, it sparked an interconnected community of people who shaped the mosaic of my identity. And whether they passed briefly through my life or walked beside me from the start, I was profoundly lucky to have them. More than lucky, I was privileged. Privileged that my existence was nurtured with love, care, support, and the rare comfort of sustainability. But today's villages do not have the time or the resources to raise even one child. Let me tell you guys a story. See, for most of my life, I grew up in the Northeast DRC, raised by the Kivu's coastal waves in a small, unstable, bustling town called Goma. As some of you might already know, the Kivu is a beautiful and culturally significant lake to the residents of both Congo and Rwanda, since the locals use it mainly for fishing, bathing, and as of recent, hydroelectric energy purposes. Growing up in luxury, in places where such is rare, is where my complex began. My little apartment was placed right next to the Congo-Rwanda border, where hordes of trucks would pass by every single day, bringing items from all across East Africa. From my balcony, I had the daily view of the Kivu. On some days, it was blue, whilst on others, it was green. Every morning before school, I would wake up and stare at the horizon, as I noticed it was a straight, endless blue line with a factory right in the middle. And when I was 7, I was purely convinced that that factory was the edge of the world. Not exaggerating. I genuinely thought that the workers were building the walls of the earth. My first question was then, what went beyond it? Thankfully, my constant traveling and primary school geography lessons allowed me to understand that life and Earth didn't end at that seemingly endless blue line. But I soon realized that horizons aren't just mere perimeters of my eye's range of sight, but are the invisible limits that circumstances place on people. They are the boundaries that decide how far their opportunities can stretch. In the 7th grade, on the occasion of Women's Day, our school decided to take all the girls from 3rd to 11th grade to this orphanage for little girls. When we arrived, the teachers took us to this room where the caretakers told us the origin story of each and every single one of those kids and how they ended up there. I befriended this one girl. Her name was Feline. But unfortunately, language was a barrier, since she spoke Swahili and I mostly spoke French. Even though my best friend tried to translate to the best of her ability, I could tell she genuinely liked me. We would often play with each other, and she would seldom fidget with the Snapchat filters on my phone. But the one item that she loved the most were the stack of glimmery bracelets on my arm. Before leaving, I offered her one, and she jumped with excitement, as if it was the greatest gift she has ever received. It was the most innocent and raw reaction of a child. our way back, our bus moved slowly along a narrow path, and a bunch of kids, aged roughly between 3 to 8, passed by us, snickering, giggling, and pointing in Swahili. My best friend translated that they were calling us spoiled, dolled-up children. I then noticed what I was wearing and what everyone else was wearing. We were adorned from head to toe in shimmery jewelry and beautiful dresses. Our privilege was visible. I then thought about Feline and how it seemed like her stars had perfectly aligned for her after her birth, since amongst the 4.1 million orphan children in the DRC, the series of unfortunate events after her birth led her towards a safe environment that provided her life, opportunities, and education. But many, and in fact most, are not so lucky. Just like the group of kids who passed and saw nothing but our privilege, the privilege I was obliviously carrying for most of my life. That moment didn't just change me. It reframed my entire perspective around privilege. You see, privilege isn't just the glimmer of our clean-shipped clothes or the green grass that we take for granted, blind to the struggles of those on the other side. For my young 11-year-old self, privilege was the opportunity to take my dreams to fruition. Privilege is the badge we selfishly clutch with pride and aren't ashamed to show off when challenged. And the system is crafted to benefit those with this badge. In economics, I learned about the concept of scarcity. And it highlights how every item in the universe, whether living or non-living, has an expiration date, even us humans. Therefore, we have no choice. But to split these scarce resources amongst us. It is a primitive instinct instilled in us by our ancestors in order to survive. The one downside to this system is that the allocation of these resources are given to none other than the minority, the privileged. And this principle extends way beyond material resources, but to the opportunities for learning. For decades, the infinite possibilities of learning have been held bound by the ropes of unfortunate circumstances for millions of children across the world. For some, it's financial instability, whilst others, gender inequality, child labor, and so much more. Much like scarce resources, opportunities are distributed unevenly, forcing millions of children to survive rather than thrive. And this is all because, out of all the options they are offered, they do not have the single choice to pave a path of success for themselves through education. Now, let me ask you this. We convince ourselves that the world is going through a scientific and innovational breakthrough, that discoveries are being made every single day. Yet we still fail to achieve the one fundamental need our universe needs, which is the universal access to the very keys of knowledge. According to the UNESCO Global Educating Monitoring Report, approximately 251 million children are out of school worldwide. This means that 1 out of every 10 children do not have access to quality education, not to mention those who are studying yet have to work on the side for a daily living, which is the situation for about 28% of the kids in Uganda alone. Well, Batseba, what about the kids who make it out? The children who despite their unfortunate circumstances, are able to pursue education. You will be surprised if I told you that in sub-Saharan Africa, low-income regions only, about 10% of these children make it to tertiary education. See, I could go on and on with endless overlooked statistics, like how half of the 240 million disabled kids are unable to finish school, or how approximately 150 million girls are prohibited from attending institutions. Some might come off as shocking, whilst others might just be common knowledge. Yet we can all agree to one thing. Something needs to be done. And if governments and influential companies have demonstrated their incapability to do so, then to whom does the responsibility fall unto? Us, the privileged. And I'm not talking about those with 5-story mansions, privileged, or those of us who go on monthly vacations, privileged, because that is status. Privilege is a mindset. It is knowing that you have more than the person next door. Acknowledging the weight of your power and the currency of your wealth whilst disregarding the price of your responsibility. So until the privileged provide the tools for the future generation to thrive, then they won't have enough insight to craft a vision of their future beyond their horizons. We are told to walk in someone else's shoes, yet our ego hinders us from feeling the pain of those with none. And we often fail to realize that we are just as responsible for the cultivation of the next generation as are the governments and the NGOs. And there are many ways to go about this. But it all starts with an idea, an intention, and a question. And the question we should ask ourselves is, what can I do to cultivate the next generation? And what can we do as a society to spark change that is parallel to the rate of their growth? It begins by making space for them to thrive, to shape their world, to transform it, and to broaden the paths before them. We need to analyze the needs of the future generation based off the circumstances that they're in. Just like Bilton Doyle said, if opportunity doesn't knock, then build a door. And I believe that the best way to do this is by acknowledging one's privilege and being willing to share it. Knowing that every child deserves to change the setting and the view of their horizon. Understanding that the individual change you can make can start small. Clothing drives, media awareness, impactful community engagement, one after the other, until we form a chain reaction of people all moving towards one goal, which is accessing the keys of knowledge. We need to stop letting the indefinite laws of social fabric to create a gap between the privileged and the underprivileged. Because education is more than just a necessity. It is a God-given right. A horizon from your balcony can look very different from mine. Yet, we all still see the same sun and moon. In other words, we're observing the same reality, but from different perspectives. Our experiences shaping how we perceive it. And there are millions of children out there just like Feline, whose lucky stars were aligned perfectly for them as well. And these children don't hold their badge of privilege pridefully, but as a way to show their redemption story, as proof of their redemption story. But some stars do not align by chance, but require someone to rearrange them when they're too far to reach. And by shining our light to others, And to these children, they will shine brighter than they would have ever imagined. So I hope the next time you look into the eyes of a child, you see not their hardships, not their situation, not their circumstances, but their unlocked potential that you might have the keys to. And by doing so, you are providing a stepping stool for them to face the world, catch their stars, and fight their challenges head on. You are bringing back the gap between the privileged and the underprivileged. Education is an invitation to dare to test the seemingly impossible and unreachable limits, the great beyond, so that your generation can provide the children of today a better view of tomorrow, a promise that they in turn can create the horizons of the future, because our horizons are endless. Thank you.